What is going on, everybody? What is going on? The Catch Fam, my name is John Dawson, and in today's video, we are hopping into an 8-team full PPR mock draft. I will be selecting from the 1.5. Today's format is a 1 QB, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 1 flex. If you guys do play in double flex, I will do my best to apply the strategy to double flex formats as well, so don't worry. 1 kicker, 1 defense, and 5 bench spots. Guys, it's mock draft season here at the channel. I'm still taking mock draft requests for the schedule, but if you guys are looking for a different format, a different draft position, be sure to check out our videos, guys. I am trying to get a video out for every draft position from 8 teams, 10 teams, and 12 teams out before the season starts. I have a ton of mocks already out. We live stream almost every single night here at the channel. We have a ton of mocks done on the live streams as well, so go check them out. You guys might see what you're looking for. If not, drop any mock draft requests down below. I'll do my best to get it worked into my schedule as well, as long as you guys are subscribed to the channel. So if you guys are new to the channel, thank you for being here. Be sure to subscribe. On the way in, all we do here is free fantasy football content, redraft, dynasty, and best ball all year long. If you guys find today's video helpful, enjoyable, whatever, hit the like. And most importantly, if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns pertaining to the upcoming fantasy season, be sure to drop them down below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Without further ado, let's not waste any more time. Let's hop into today's mock draft. All right, so like I said, for the purpose of today's video, we are drafting from the 1.5 as requested. So an interesting spot to draft from. You know, there could be a running back you really like there. Austin Eckler, maybe Bijan falls to that spot. There's also going to be some really good wide receivers available as well. So I think ultimately you just go with the best available player. And even if that's Travis Kelce for you, I don't mind that as well. But we're going to go hero running back. We're going to go Austin Eckler here. Take him off the board. RB1's out of the way. And in these 8-team formats, I really like to go hero running back, get good positional advantage at the quarterback position. Although we'll talk about it throughout today's video. Sometimes you can kind of hold off at quarterback and still get a top tier guy. We'll see what happens. But I think I really like going, RB1 early, going with the hero running back method, unless there's a wide receiver you feel like you can't pass up in the first round. Tyreek Hill there was pretty close. Nonetheless, we'll kind of try and go with the best available wide receivers at the 2.4 and then maybe at the 3.5. But if the right quarterbacks are there as well, we're not going to pass them up. I will say Travis Kelce is still on the board. We're going to completely pivot. And these 8-team formats, when Kelce is available for you, you just don't pass him up, okay? The positional advantage is far too large to pass up Kelce at this point in the draft. And the same goes for Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, and Josh Allen. When those guys are there, I really feel like you have to take them. But like I said, being that we've already gone tight end early when I didn't really plan to, we might go with a little bit of a later round quarterback approach. At the same time, having Mahomes and Kelce in an 8-team format gives you tremendous positional advantage on a weekly basis. So for me, we'll kind of see who's available at the 3.5, but I do want to go ahead and secure as many wide receivers that we believe in as possible early on. So we'll kind of see what happens. We'll kind of see who's available. Was not expecting Kelce to be available right there, but luckily for us, he was. So I'll take Kelce all day long in the second round. That's a player who I was considering going with at the 1.5. So the positional advantage just far too high for us to pass on Kelce. Don't really need to talk about it anymore. If Mahomes is there at the 3.5, I wasn't really planning on it when I started this video, but we're probably going Mahomes just because that stack, you just can't pass that up. The QB1, the tight end one from last year, is that going to, repeat this year? Who knows? But Mahomes, a top 8 quarterback every year since he's been a starter. Kelce, it's just ridiculous. Has been the tight end one every year since 2016, except for 2021, where he was the tight end 2 with Mark Andrews as the tight end 1. So ultimately, I don't really feel bad about going aggressive with those 2 players. So nonetheless, we'll move along here. We'll see what happens. And okay, Mahomes is gone. We could go ahead and take Jalen Hurts here, which I don't mind, but I think it's kind of important that we go ahead and we secure the best available wide receivers. So we don't get the Kelce Mahomes stack. It was still fun to think about. But that's the thing in these 8-team formats, man, those quarterbacks, they just bring such a positional advantage. You have to consider it as part of your strategy. Nonetheless, we'll move along. Mahomes off the board, Allen's off the board. If Hertz is there at 4.4, I'm not passing on Hertz, I'll tell you that much. But I think our primary target right here is our wide receiver two, a couple running backs off the board here. I really want to go in and take Devonta Smith or Calvin Ridley with this next pick. But like I said, it's just so hard to pass on Jalen Hurts at this point in the draft. The 1.5 is interesting because you're going to see a lot of good value guys fall to us. Devonta Smith is gone. I love Calvin Ridley right there. But ultimately, I just can't pass up on the value of Jalen Hurts as a fourth round selection. So we'll take him all day long. The advantage we have now, right, is we have our primary RB1, our primary wide receiver one, we have our tight end and our quarterback out of the way. Now we can just absolutely load up at wide receiver and get some good value running backs throughout the rest of this draft. So I still think ultimately we're in a very good position. Nonetheless, we'll just kind of sit back and see what happens. All right, so to me, in these full PPR formats, whether you play in a double flex format or a one flex format, we definitely want multiple wide receivers that we trust in our starting lineup. So for me, at this point in the draft, I love Jalen Waddle, don't get me wrong, but I definitely had the feeling that we need to continue to load up at the wide receiver position. So that is going to be the plan moving forward. And we'll talk about what just happened because I do think that is really interesting to see a team go Mahomes and Burrow. But this will absolutely happen in your 18 formats at times because what does that do? Now a team has Mahomes and Burrow. That's taking away positional advantage from at least one team out there. And now you see it, more quarterbacks are starting to go off the board. It's going to start a little bit of a quarterback run in the draft that gives team three an advantage. But overall, throughout the season, it gives team three a massive advantage because God forbid Mahomes gets hurt. And when Mahomes has a bye week, Team 3 has Joe Burrow to plug in. Guys, this does happen in 18 formats. It's an absolute slap to the face to the rest of the teams in the league. And I definitely think some of you guys out there will see that. Maybe not as aggressive. Maybe a team goes Mahomes and Trevor Lawrence, Mahomes and Justin Herbert, Mahomes and Fields, things like that. But ultimately, you will see this sometimes when a team goes double quarterback. Okay, we're going to go with the best available wide receiver here. You might be surprised I went DJ Moore, but I absolutely love DJ Moore going into the year. Let's take Debo here. I'm fine with Debo as my wide receiver 3. Didn't really love him as a wide receiver 4, but I think he's perfectly fine as a wide receiver 3. I will say I really like Brandon Ayuk, who has some late round value to him, but at the same time, I want to take some shots on Debo throughout the year as well. So Debo right there, I'm fine with them. Perfectly fine flex option. And looking at the 7.5, the guy that I am eyeing is Christian Kirk. You might think, well, it's a little bit more important that you go ahead and you get your RB2. But for me, I want a wide receiver on the bench, a wide receiver 4 who I trust putting into my flex spot, putting into my wide receiver 2 spot throughout the season. So for me, especially in full PPR, Christian Kirk is the guy that I'm eyeing right here. And if you play in a double flex format, this is a great area to go ahead and snag your wide receiver 4. We're going hero running back, guys. We have huge positional advantage at quarterback and tight end right now. RB2, if we sacrifice it a bit and get really good wide receivers, is going to be completely fine. All right, so looking at the board here, it feels like we're in a pretty good position to go ahead and get Kirk, but team 3 only has 2 wide receivers, team 4 also only has 2 wide receivers. You just never really know what's going to happen. But it looks like we're in a position where we're going to be able to select Kirk. And, in the last couple 18 mocks that I've ran, we've been able to do this. So love Kirk as a wide receiver 4. Don't even mind him as if you can get him as a wide receiver 5, that's even better. But I don't even mind him as a wide receiver 3. So I still think even going tight end early, quarterback early, we've been able to get 4 really solid wide receivers. But ultimately, we don't want to completely neglect the RB2 spot. So I think at the 8.4 and 9.5, we go ahead and we get our RB2. Then we go ahead and we get our first bench running back, our RB3. So, looking at who's available, I want DeAndre Swift because I think he brings the most upside to the table. And then looking at the 9.5, we're going to try and land Rashad White or David Montgomery, but I also don't mind Isaiah Pacheco in that range as well. So we'll go ahead and we'll knock out our RB2, RB3. And then, like, after that, we're just getting the best available RB4. And we're finishing out this draft with two more wide receivers, a kicker, and defense. So, I think ultimately we saw some tremendous value fall to us throughout this draft. Super happy about that. And I think ultimately that's going to really put us in a good position to where even if, maybe you don't have the most confidence in, the wide receivers, running backs behind Eckler and Waddle on this team, for example. But man, the upside that we're going to get from Jalen Hurts, the upside that we're going to get from Travis Kelsey, the positional advantage at quarterback and tight end, and still having a stud RB1 and stud wide receiver one is really going to give us some really good positional advantage throughout the rest of this draft and throughout the year as well. So, like I said, I mean, maybe there are guys you prefer over DJ Moore or Debo or Kirk. That's okay. Just look at the board and, make notes that you could pick those guys instead of the guys that I went with. But those are the players that I like the best. So ultimately, we're just going for the next best available running backs. When we look at this tier, I mean, Akers, Connor, I like those guys. But in full PPR, I'm just a really big fan of Rashad White. So if he's available, he's going to be the player that I go ahead and select. He is available, so let's take White off the board. I do really like David Montgomery. I have a feeling he might go with one of these next couple selections, but also the teams in front of me are pretty heavy at the running back position, so I don't quite know. We'll see. If he falls back to the 10.4, then I'll take him all day long. And then, like I said, 11.5, 12.4, we're just going with the best available wide receivers. And even if we don't get Monty here, James Conner, Isaiah Pacheco, a lot of really good names. But I'm going to go with Monty. I think this is going to be a touchdown vulture this year. Have a really similar role to what we saw out of Jamal Williams last year. And I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, do I think he's going to score as many touchdowns? Probably not. And I mean, Gibbs is the running back on the lines that brings that pass catching upside when it comes to the running back position. But Monty should still have a very solid year. It's a great offensive line. That offense should only improve going into, all the hype and buzz that they've had. It was a good year last year. I think they'll be better this year. They should be more efficient. The receiving game kind of worries me for the Lions, but ultimately I think they'll be just fine. So I love Monty as a RB4 in that range. I think he's absolutely great. So moving along at the 11.5, who do we want to target? I was hoping Hollywood Brown would be available. He's not. So what are we going to do now? We're kind of at the back end of this draft. Usually I have another wide receiver in the mix at this point, but we took Kelsey so early that we do not. I want to go for some upside here. Zay Flowers, Sky Moore. These are the type of guys in this range that I'm looking at. And it does look like both of those guys are going to be available for us. So let's go ahead and let's take Zay Flowers off the board. I like Cortland Sutton in this range as well. I like Romeo Dobbs. I mean, those four guys are really the late round wide receivers that I'm looking at. I will note Deontay Johnson was on the board, and I also really like Deontay Johnson. He's probably above Flowers and all of those guys. Just full PPR. He's going to bring that consistency to the table week in and week out. You could also take a shot on like JSN is available right here. I'm just really high on Sky Moore, so I'm happy to take him. And when I get into those later rounds, I'm just kind of like on autopilot, like, where is Sky Moore, Zay Flowers, Cortland Sutton, Romeo Dobbs? I'm so used to taking them. But Deontay Johnson, JSN would have been completely fine to select there as well. If you wanted a fifth running back, you could go with a 5 RB, 5 wide receiver build as well. But ultimately, I think we're in a good enough position at the running back position that we just go ahead and we take Sky Moore. You could go Romeo Dobbs. I think either selection is fine at this point in the draft. And then we're just going to finish up things with a kicker and defense and call it a day. So let's take a look at the team. I really had to pivot quite a few times. This was a fun draft overall, but just not exactly what I thought it was going to be. We started out hero running back. That means I usually go wide receiver in the second and third, sometimes maybe a quarterback in the third, but usually a QB in the fourth or fifth. Ultimately, though, I will say I really like the way that this team turned out. Maybe we have a little bit less positional advantage at wide receiver than I like, but man, Hurts as our starting quarterback, Kelsey as our starting tight end. I mean, that alone right there should account for just a tremendous amount of upside throughout the season, a ton of positional advantage. Then we got Eckler and DeAndre Swift, or Eckler and White, Eckler and Monty. Our RB2 spot, I think, still brings a lot of upside and potential consistency to the table throughout the year with Eckler. I mean, that's fantastic. Waddle and DJ Moore as our primary wide receiver 1 and 2. Debo Samuel or Christian Kirk in the flex is perfectly fine. I'm very happy with that. If you play in a double flex format, that's fine. I mean, you can flex Debo and Kirk. Then we have some upside at the wide receiver position on the bench between Zay Flowers and Sky Moore. So ultimately, very happy with this team. Different. This is not exactly how I thought it was going to go, but like I said, man, if you're there at the 2.4, excuse me, and Kelsey's there, like, how are you going to pass up on Kelsey at that point in the draft? If you're there at the 4.4 and Hurts is available, like, you just don't pass up on Jalen Hurts. So ultimately, I think we actually got a couple smash plays throughout today's draft, and I'm very happy with that. So let's go ahead and pick. Let's just go kicker. We'll take Daniel Carlson, the kicker #1 last year and the year before that, off the board. A couple defenses and kickers kind of mixed in here. And yeah, we're just going to pick the best available defense to end this draft, and we'll call it a day. So, like I said, a very different draft. Kind of caught me off guard at times today, but let me know in the comments down below what you guys thought of today's draft. Guys, I'm almost completely done getting out every single draft position video for 8-team format. So make sure you guys check out all the videos we have. You guys might find what you're looking for. But if you have any other mock draft requests, I'm also trying to get out a video from every draft position for 10 teams and 12-team formats. But if you have other formats you guys are looking for, let me know in the comments down below. I'll try to get that put on the schedule for you guys. If you guys did find today's video helpful, enjoyable, whatever it may be, make sure you guys subscribe on the way out. Make sure you hit the like button on the way out and check out all of our links down below. And that's going to wrap up today's mock draft. With that, I will say thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on The Catch.